Hi there, welcome to Taubyte. This is a detailed and a comprehensive video on how to deploy Tau on your own cloud. There are two requirements that must be met before we start. First one is an FDQN. It stands for a fully qualified domain name. You can use your main domain or a subdomain of your main domain. The second one is an advanced DNS management option by your domain provider. In this video, I will be using the k8s.cu domain. Later, you can change the generated subdomain to a completely different one for testing or debugging. Now for the infrastructure setup, you can use VMs or bare metal. In this video, I will be using 3 hosts that I provisioned across 3 continents. The first one in Spain, second one in the UAE, and the third one in Algeria. Notice that I named my host in a meaningful way from 1 to 3. This is not mandatory, but it is advised for easy use and configuration. Now let's start preparing our hosts. If you are using a remote connection to a server, please enable SSH so you don't lock yourself out. First, let's configure our firewall and expose the ports Tau needs to function properly. Let's start with ports 4242, 4247 and 4252 TCP. These are used for peer-to-peer communication between the nodes. Let's add ports 443 and 80 TCP for HTTP and HTTPS. These are used for serving APIs and hosted files. Finally, TCP ports 53 and 953 and UDP ports 53 and 953. These are for DNS resolution. After you finish, make sure you enable the firewall and check its status. Now, we need curl and a text editor. I will be using Nano since it comes pre-installed on Linux. Let's alter the resolved config file in the systemd folder. Change the DNS to 1.1.1.1. This is Cloudflare's DNS server known for security and privacy. Also set the DNS stub listener to no. It is useful when using a local DNS solution. Let's save and exit, then apply the changes. It is time now to install Docker. Let's use the official script. We check the version to verify the installation after it finishes. Next step is installing Tau using the official script. If it's done correctly, you would see a line that says installation complete. Now let's apply all of this to the other hosts. Now that we are done with the general setup of all the hosts, we need to choose one host to configure and initialize the Tau Cloud secrets. I will work with the host number 1. We need the host's public IP address, and we can get it using curl ifconfig.me for IPv4. Now let's generate the node's configuration using the tau config generate command. The N flag is for the name of the domain. In this case, it's k8s.cu. The S flag is for giving the service role to compute. Services all is for selecting all Tau core services. IP is for the node's IP that we just got. DV is for domain validation keys. And Swarm means this node is a part of Docker Swarm and that facilitates clustering. We can fine-tune this configuration at tb/config/compute.yaml. We can add and delete services to our like, but we must also watch for conflicting services like Substrate and Gateway. Auth service is for authentication and authorization. Patrick service is for CI/CD job orchestration. Monkey runs jobs from Patrick, and TNS is Taubyte's naming service. Hoarder handles object storage, Seer handles DNS-based service discovery and load balancing, and Substrate is the powerhouse of event processing in Taubyte. We can also change the generated domain to another domain of choice and save and exit. Validate the configuration using the tau-conf validate. Now we can start the node using the tau-start command. Let us test our work with Slimdig. Use seer.tau.k8s.cu for the domain and the node's IP we copied earlier for the name server. Click the A record and we should get the node's IP back. Awesome! Everything is working now, but it is not practical. It does not survive reboots and failures, and especially does not run in the background. So we switch it to a systemd service. Let's stop the process manually using Ctrl+C and create a new file at lib systemd system and name it tau@.service. Let's copy the content from the docs, so we head to tau.how, click the building a platform, then manually deploying tau and choose transitioning to a systemd service. Copy the content and paste it in the file. Save and exit, then enable the service with the system control enable. Start it with the system control start and check its status with system control status. If we see the active keyword, then we did it correctly. The Seer protocol allows your Tau cloud to handle DNS-based load balancing using special subdomain patterns. This makes it possible for DNS queries like tns.tau.yourdomain to return the IPs of the running nodes dynamically, no need for external load balancing. Let's head to the advanced DNS management option in the control panel. In this case, I am using Namecheap. Let's add an A record for Seer with the node's public IP address. Then add an NS record for the Tau that delegates queries to the Seer we just created. Let's verify our work with Slimdig. Use tns.tau.k8s.cu and 8.8.8.8 as a name server. If successful, the response will be the IP address of the Seer node. Once DNS is configured and your Seer service is running, your Tau cloud will be fully discoverable by DNS clients. To expand our one node cloud, we need to add more nodes. In our case, we will add the 2 nodes from earlier. From the first node, we are going to export a configuration file using the tau-config export command. Give it a password when prompted. Let's copy the content to other nodes. Starting with the second one, let's create a file and name it compute.temple.yaml. Paste our configuration, delete the first node's location, and save and exit. Let's retrieve the first node's multi-address using the tau-config show command and the node's own IP address using curl ifconfig.me. Let's execute the config-gen command and use the node's own IP with the IP flag, the compute file we just copied with the use flag, and the first node's multi-address with the bootstrap flag. After generating the config file, let's get back to the docs, copy the systemd file content again, and create a tau@.service file under lib systemd system, and paste the content there. Save and exit, and let us enable the service with system control enable command. Then start it with the system control start command, and verify the service is running with system control status command. For the final steps, we will add Seer to point at all the nodes we have. So let's get the 3 public IP addresses and add them in the DNS management panel. We also need to add the generated subdomain of the domain we chose for testing to point at Seer. Add an NS record and make sure you don't forget the dot at the end. To make sure all the nodes are aware of each other's, let's retrieve the multi-addresses of all the nodes using the tau-config show command. Add them all to the Seer section of each node's compute file. Finally, if we slimdig tns.tau.k8s.cu, we will find that we are getting the public IPs of all the 3 nodes. Let's navigate to Taubyte's web console at console.taubyte.com. Enter an email and the domain name. If it accepts it, then we have set up the nodes the right way. Use GitHub to log in and create a blank project. Once we are in the dashboard, we can see our nodes in the map at their right locations. Let's create a simple ping pong function. Choose the generated domain and validate. Now, we need to push our code to GitHub and let it trigger a build. We can check the build status in the build section on the left. Once both jobs for config and code are done, we can now go back to the function and click the yellow lightning to test it out. And voila, returns Pong. And that means we were successful. Congratulations, you have your own cloud. I'll leave you here to explore more. See you in the next one.